And if you have questions this evening, you're welcome to put those in the chat box. I'll be monitoring that. And we will have time at the end of the program for some questions and answers. So be sure and share those questions that you might have, because we want everybody to be on the same page as our tournament gets going. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Emily and Matthew.
All right, sounds good. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Emily DeForest. I am the 4-H agent here in Calhoun County. And with me tonight, we have Matthew March from Waller County. And we are excited to be sharing with you some information about measuring and handling our fish for the virtual sport fishing program, as well as some identification. So the first thing we are going to talk about is how to measure a fish. So Texas Parks and Wildlife states that to measure a fish, we want to place the fish on its side on our Check-it-Stik with the jaw closed. So that's super important for our tournament whenever we're taking pictures of our fish and measuring them, which we'll talk about. Number two, fish, we squeeze the tail fin together to obtain the maximum overall length. For hard-tailed fish, you turn the tail to obtain maximum length on that. For our fishing program, we are going to say that all of the fish species that you can enter are soft-tailed fish, so make sure you are squeezing the tail fin together to obtain that maximum length on your fish. And number four, you want to measure a straight line from the tip of the snout to the extreme tip of the tail fin. And the website there on the screen is the Texas Parks and Wildlife link to these tips in case you forget, or if you would like to just look at it again another time. So here is a picture of our Check-it-Stik that we are using for the measuring of our fish for the tournament. You should have a Check-it-Stik, the actual Check-it-Stik brand. If not, I'm sure that will be got to you quickly if you registered in time. If you did not register in time, or if you don't have one, any Walmart, Academy, tackle store, they should have the Check-it-Stik brand. So if you don't have one, I know the tournament starts on Saturday. If you don't have one by then, I would definitely recommend going and grabbing one from the store. So let's talk now about how to read an inch in decimals. So whenever we are entering our fish in Fish Donkey, we want to enter the length of your fish in a whole number and then 2-digit decimal place, so tenths and hundredths. Example 10. Inch tail touches is the measurement to be recorded. Length that's more. Okay. Sorry about that. So anyway, so make sure the length that you're recording is accurate, so you get the accurate length of your fish. So just an example, how to read an inch in decimals. So this is in the rules that are available to you. So this little inch mark here with all the hash marks in between. So for this contest, we will accept measurements to the nearest eighth of an inch. So you can see there on this screen, or hopefully you can see on the screen. So an eighth of an inch equals 0.12 in decimals. A fourth is 0.25. 3/8 is 0.37. A half inch is 0.50. 5/8 is 0.62. 3/4 is 0.75. And 7/8 is 0.87. And then, of course, the inch. I apologize for the dogs barking if y'all can hear that. All right, so practicing reading decimals on a ruler. So obviously we will probably not catch a flounder that is this small, but can anyone put in a chat box what the measurement of this flounder would be if we had a flounder this small? We can get some participation from you guys. So what would you enter as the length of the flounder on the screen? Is correct, because that is the last black line that the fish crosses. So this fish and you stick, and you can only count the number of spots on one side that of the fish that you can see. So even though, you know, the typical redfish has 2 spots, one on each side, for the purpose of our contest, we would only call that as 1 spot. We only measure this computer. I'm going to go to my iPad, a videographer here, to show y'all how to measure a flounder. So you could just give me just 1 second. Jheri-Lynn, would you mind giving to the video? I'm unable to get video on my iPad.
You should be able to share now. I'm sorry. Didn't have that one clicked. There you go. We can see it.
All right, perfect. Let me get it turned around here. I'm pointed at the screen at the top here, maybe. Okay, let's see. All right, here we go. Can everybody see the Check-it-Stik there?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can see it, Emily.
Okay, perfect. So I have my Check-it-Stik here, and then I went floundering the other night, which I went means of harvesting flounder for the purpose of our contest. That is not allowed. You do have to catch your fish with a rod and reel, but this is how I was able to obtain a flounder this week. And so whenever you're measuring your fish, you want to make sure that that mouth is closed and all the way up to the bump to the very edge of the Check-it-Stik there. All right, so I have them on his side there. And then you want to pinch the tail as much as you can. 16. And I can't see the chat box. Jheri-Lynn, did okay, 16. Okay, I do see that now. So since I marked there, and so I would to our decimal would be 16 16.12. All right, so pinching that tail, it does cross there. I know it's not much, but it does cross. So 16.12 would be the accurate measurement of the fish. So when you go to take your picture, you want to have that to where you know it's pinched real good, making sure that the nose or the jaw is bumped up to that bumper, so that you have an accurate picture like that. And we'll go over taking a picture more here in just a second. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt. He does have some freshwater fish that he will be able to.
I'll show my camera right now. So this is where I'm going to talk about freshwater fish for y'all. And it's pretty much the same as Emily just discussed as far as the basics, but it's a little bit different. We tend to deal with a little bit of smaller fish, and obviously we don't have flounder in freshwater. So for today, I'm going to demonstrate, this is actually a green sunfish, and that would be classified in the panfish category. So we want to do just like Emily discussed. We want to put it right up against the board. We want to make sure the mouth is closed, and we want to pinch the tail. I don't know if y'all can see that good enough, but do y'all have any guesses on the length on that? If y'all want to type it in the chat real quick.
8.25.
I agree, 8.25. It doesn't quite go to that next mark, so this would be 8.25. So I also want to show y'all, I don't have any catfish. I'm going to show y'all some pictures here in a minute of catfish because those are a little bit different. But I also wanted to show y'all this small fish. This is actually a green sunfish also. And I know some of y'all might be saying, why would we measure something that small? Well, you got to remember in the panfish category, it's the stringer of 5. So even if you catch a small fish like this, you still want to measure it to make sure you get your stringer of 5. But the principle is still the same. We want to put it up to the end there, and we want to pinch the tail. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're measuring these fish is to make sure your hands, on the small ones, to make sure your hands aren't covering anything, because when you submit your photo, even though we know this fish is pretty small, if your fingers are covering the tail, we're going to have to disqualify you. So for this one, I would say he's probably right at 4 inches in length. All right. So with that, give me 1 second, unless y'all have any questions on that. I'm going to stop this computer and go back over to my other one for the slides. Okay, y'all, I'm going to share my, should be here. Measuring catfish in our freshwater division, it's a little bit different, especially for the big fish, because they have on their, what we call their pectoral fins. That'd be the fins on the side of them. So you see the pectoral fins would be the fin closest to this guy's thumb in the picture. Their fins are really hard, and you're unable to bend them over on their side, so you can't physically measure them like we would the bass or the perch. So like Emily mentioned earlier, another catfish, same thing. This was probably a flathead catfish. They laid it on their belly and then they pinched the tail. But we also have in the rule books, if you do catch a fish that's larger than a Check-it-Stik, which is probably on the catfish is over the length of the Check-it-Stik, they use to measure a bass, but a lot of people submit pictures with their largemouth bass with their mouth open. And what can that do? Well, that can add length to your fish. So in a largemouth bass, it could add an inch or two worth of length. So that's why we have to disqualify you. So make sure again that you have your mouth closed, especially on largemouth bass. This would be another good example on how to measure a bass effectively. If y'all want to guess real quick, do y'all bass is? Either type it in the chat or just turn on your speaker and say. Any guesses?
21.75.
I would agree with that. Very good. All right, so I think Emily's going to take back over for these next few slides, and then y'all hear again from me in a minute. So I'm going to let Emily take back over.
All right, thanks, Matt. So this next section, we are going to talk about how to photograph our fish. And we kind of touched on it a little bit when we were showing you measuring a fish. So I will say this is a two-person job. Well, usually it's a two-person job. Sometimes you can get it by yourself, but grab a friend, grab a family member, go fishing, take your Check-it-Stik. Some tips to your submit. So if we can't read the Check-it-Stik board, then there's no way for us to verify anything. So make sure that your photograph is clear and the measurement board is legible. Number 2, do not cover the mouth and tail. Again, that's just for verification of your length. If you cover the mouth, we can't verify that that mouth is touching the front of the Check-it-Stik. Same thing with covering the tail. We like Matt said, vacation. So make sure that that mouth is closed so that we can get an accurate measurement on your fish. To go along with that, the snout or the lower jaw of the fish must be touching the front of the measuring board, again, for accuracy. Make sure the tail is pinched because that is going to get you the greatest length out of that fish. And again, that's Parks and Wildlife's recommendations on how to you must use a Check-it-Stik. So like I said in the beginning, if you don't have one, by the time Saturday rolls around, I highly recommend going to Walmart, Academy, your local tackle store, and grabbing one because it has to be on a Check-it-Stik, those pictures. Photo must be taken with the Fish Donkey app. You can't just whip out your phone and take the an area that does have service, it will be uploaded. Don't forget the hero pick. We want to see your smiling faces with your catch of the day, and so make sure you are taking that hero pick. You know, kind of to make sure that that mouth closes. You may have to get somebody else to help you as well, where, you know, one person is pinching the tail, one person is making that, you know, making sure that mouth is closed, using, you know, you can use your, when all three of you taking a good question though. Does that answer your
for the hero pick?
You can take a selfie with your fish.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So now we're going to talk about the top 5 disqualifications of fish that we've seen, or, you know, that we've had over the years. So the top one is that mouth being open. So just reiterating, make sure that mouth is closed on that fish when you're taking the measurement picture. Number 2, the snout not touching the front of the Check-it-Stik. So making sure that that fish is pushed all the way up to get that accurate reading. Number 3, no hero picture. So sometimes if we do see that there isn't a hero picture that has been uploaded, we will let you know, hey, that needs to be uploaded, because sometimes technology goes kind of crazy. And so, you know, Fish Donkey may not have uploaded it. So just make sure that when you are submitting that you do get both of those pictures so that you don't get disqualified. Number 4, fish not measured on a Check-it-Stik. I know I'm saying it and saying it again and saying it again. Make sure you have the Check-it-Stik, because that is our measurement in a category. And we will talk about the identification here in just a second to make sure that you have the correct species. So I'll talk about saltwater division, and then that'll be it for me. I'll turn it over for Matt for the rest of the time. So our saltwater division is the spotted sea trout, a redfish or a red drum, flounder. So our southern flounder is our 3rd one for this year. So here are some pictures. So that top one there is the redfish or the red drum. The fish on the bottom left is our speckled trout. And then the fish on the bottom right is our southern flounder. So these are the only 3 species can be entered on the saltwater. About
All right, thank you, Emily. Let me see. There we go. All right, so Emily did a great job of covering saltwater. I'm going to do freshwater. Freshwater division's a little bit more complicated, but before I jump into what qualifies as a freshwater fish or for this contest, I do want to mention if you catch a saltwater fish and you know it doesn't work in the saltwater category, don't try to enter it in a freshwater division and think we're going to allow it in, because we have had that happen in the past, specifically with croaker and pinfish and whiting, some of those smaller saltwater fish. We've had people try to enter that in the panfish division in the freshwater. So just keep that in mind. Keep your saltwater with your saltwater and your freshwater with. We'll talk about the categories in freshwater. So we have bass, catfish, and panfish. Bass includes our largemouth, smallmouth, Guadalupe, and spotted. In it. Catfish is pretty simple. That's going to be our 3 big main catfish species in Texas. And I think everybody pretty much knows what a catfish is. And if you catch a catfish on a rod and reel, it's 99% of the time going to be one of those 3 species, channel blue or flathead. But again, like I said, if you're on the coast and you catch a gaff top or a hardhead catfish in saltwater, we are going to disqualified if you try to enter it in the freshwater catfish division. And then our last category in freshwater is panfish. This is the one that probably gets the most people, as it's probably the most complicated. That does include crappie, both black and white, and then all members of the sunfish family. And we included that list here. I'm not going to go through that, but I am going to show y'all some pictures here in a minute. So moving right ahead, for our bass category, that includes our 4 species of what we call black bass in Texas. They all look fairly similar, as you can see in this picture, but that includes a largemouth, which is on the top left. The bottom left is a smallmouth bass, I believe. The top right is going to be a Guadalupe bass, and the bottom right is going to be a spotted bass. But like I said, all these look very similar, and these are what we call our black bass. The black bass are the only ones that qualify for the bass division. We see a lot of people try to enter these invalid bass species, which we tend to call temperate bass. This could include such things as white bass, which is pictured on the top left. Some parts of Texas, those are also called sand perch or sand bass. On the top right, that's a yellow bass that would also not qualify in the bass category. And then on the bottom is our hybrid striper, our striped bass. Those would also not qualify. So we do get this quite a bit because we do call these bass also in Texas, but these species belong to the temperate bass family, which do not qualify for our tournament. And basically, if this is a little confusing for you, all you got to remember is our black bass tend to be kind of green in color, as you can see from this slide, while our temperate bass, which do not qualify, tend to be white and have black stripes running down their body. So our next category is going to be catfish. Like I said, this is pretty straightforward, as most people know how to easily identify catfish, but that does include our blue cats, which is going to be the top picture here, the bottom left, which is going to be our channel catfish, and then our bottom right, which is going to be our flathead catfish. Some people also call those yellow cats. So here is the category out of both the freshwater and saltwater that probably gets the most disqualified entries because the fish does not meet the requirements. And this would be our panfish category. So that does include on the left both black and white crappie. Those are the 2 species of fish pictured on the left. And then it includes all these and some of the more common ones in this chart. I'm going to show y'all some pictures of some entries that from the tournament actually last year that we had to disqualify. And y'all, for a couple, I'm going to ask y'all to try to guess. So for this catfish here, why do y'all think we disqualified this entry? And yeah, those are very good guesses. So the main reason why this one was disqualified was because the mouth was open. You see, he has his thumb in between the Check-it-Stik there in the mouth, so he probably added some length to the fish. And y'all are probably getting tired of me and Emily harping on that. Too obvious. I would say the tail could be maybe a little. Personally, I would not disqualify this entry. Tail, they did make the effort to pinch it. So mouth open. Some pictures of some bass. These are disqualified for several reasons. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Both of them have mouths open, and that is one that we see a lot on largemouth bass. Measuring board, but it was not the official Check-it-Stik. We also cannot see the numbers on the left picture. So even if it was a Check-it-Stik, it would still also get disqualified because the numbers were blurry. So that's just something to keep in mind. We understand it's hard when you're out there maybe on the boat or your hands are wet or on a bank and it's muddy and the fish is flopping around trying to take a picture and get a good quality picture where we can see the numbers, but make sure you do, because if we cannot see those numbers, we are going to have to disqualify the fish. All right, so here's another one that was disqualified. I'm going to let y'all try to guess. Why do you think we disqualified this one in the bass division?
This is because maybe the mouth wasn't fully at the front.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
They didn't
but
pinch his tail.
Nah, the tail's pinched. Remember what we said, for our bass division, our bass are generally green in color. What color is this fish? It's white. So this is actually an incorrect fish species. This would be a white bass. So even though it's a bass, it's not one of our valid species for the tournament. So we have to disqualify it.
One question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you were trying to squeeze the tail, take a picture, and hold the mouth closed, how could you take the picture and do those other things?
So it's a good question. So, like Emily said earlier, I would try to, y'all are probably out there with a friend or probably your parents. Your parents are more than welcome to, or your friend, hold the fish or to pinch the tail or take the picture. As far as the rules go, we just need to see your smiling face with the hero pick. That way we know you caught that fish. You can get help to do these things because it is difficult and we understand that. And like I said, we do have a little bit of leniency there. Like this one, like y'all mentioned, yeah, maybe the mouth could be a little bit closer to the board, but it's pretty close. And so we probably wouldn't disqualify it for that. Same thing with the pinch tail. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
The entire body of we cannot see the entire body of the fish. Again, you see he's trying to hold the mouth. He's doing a good job pinching the mouth, but we can't tell if that mouth is actually up against the board. Same thing with the one on the left. We can't actually see the measurement numbers for the tail. All right, so now we're going to jump over and do a saltwater one real quick. And this would be a redfish. And the reason why this one was disqualified was because Emily was unable to read the measurements. The sun was glaring down on it, and obviously y'all can see how it's shining off of there, and we cannot see the measurements. So just keep that in mind. And here for the last one, this so the one on the left is an incorrect fish species. I'm going to move on to the last section of our presentation today, and we're going to run game men and game women and good fishermen, we want to respect the fish we catch, especially if we're doing catch and release, because we want this fish to go back out in the wild and live and be healthy and be able to add to the population and allow somebody else to catch that fish later. So there are some practices we can do when handling your fish to minimize basically the fish's stress and make sure that it is healthy and can live on its life. Remember, fish need water to breathe, basically, so we want to minimize the amount of time the fish is out of the water. Take your picture, put it on the Check-it-Stik, do that as quick as possible, and get it back in the water. Keep the fish from thrashing, so if the fish is we also recommend using over a nylon net. Have a plastic coating and that protects the scales of the fish. Remember, again, the scales of a fish are just like the skin that we have, and our skin protects us from the outside world just like scales do on a fish. So if we damage that scale of the fish, we're going to cause damage and potentially make that fish sick and die. The slime or the mucus on the fish, which is kind of disgusting, that actually has a very important purpose that actually acts as the immune system for the fish. So we want to protect that slime and mucus, and we can do that by keeping the fish in the water as much as possible. And when we do hold the fish, if we're holding it with our bare hands, we want our hands to be wet, or we want to use a rag. I'm going to show y'all in a little bit how to support the weight of the fish, but we don't want to hold the fish up by the jaw only, especially on larger fish that are over 5 pounds, because you can actually break the jaw of that fish. We see that a lot, especially in a lot of our big bass. And again, don't put your fingers through the gills or the eyes. You know, those are sensitive parts of the fish. If you're putting your finger into the gill, you're basically putting your finger into the lung of the fish, and, you know, we're making it difficult for them to breathe. Removing the hook, we want to use proper tools. I'm going to show y'all some examples here in a minute. We want to back the hook out the opposite way it went in. Removing deep bedded hooks can be difficult, especially if you're fishing with lures. Sometimes those lures get deep down in the fish's throat, or with catfish. Sometimes they swallow that bait whole and the hook ends up getting set down deep in their gut or on the edge of their stomach. Old saying, you know, just cut the hook and it'll rust. Well, that's really not true so more, because a lot of our hooks, especially in salt water, we put a coating on them so they don't rust. So that hook's not going to rust away. And that if you leave the hook in the fish, you can actually impede its eating and can actually die. So I'm going to suggest y'all go to the rule of play again, and there's a link to a Parks and Wildlife video on how to pull on the rod or pull on the leader line to cause a lot of injury that way. And then lastly, when we release our fish, we want to make sure it's set to go, that it's ready to swim. So we can do that by making sure we release it gently back into the water. I understand maybe on salt water, maybe you're up on a pier, or maybe on a jetty, or maybe even a freshwater. If you're on a lake, maybe you're up on a pier. That might be a little more difficult, but if possible, we want to lower into the water. We don't want to just throw it from 20 feet and let it hit the water. Again, we want to support that midsection with our one hand. Again, if you're doing that. And we want to resuscitate the fish, especially if it was a hard-fought fight, and bringing that fish in. And you can do that by holding it in the water and pushing water over the gills. You can do that physically by, you know, putting your hand in the water in front of the fish and pushing water into it, or you can move the fish in the water. And once you release the fish, we want to watch it. If the fish swims off really aggressively like normal, then it's good to go. But sometimes that fish will kind of turn belly up, or you can tell it doesn't want to swim off. Go ahead and maybe hold the fish in the water with the net for a while, or keep your hand on the fish and try to force more water over the gills till the fish recovers. All right, so I'm gonna jump on and stop sharing this screen and all right, so y'all, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to turn off the other microphone so there wasn't an echo. All right, so I'm going to show y'all how to properly handle real quick. I know I'm kind of far away from the camera, so I know my voice might be a little quiet, but I'll try to speak loud. So I'm going to show y'all some different tools real quick. So here is what we were talking about earlier, using a rubber net. This would be the ideal net to use, not like a nylon or a net made out of twine or something. Again, that's going to be hurt their scales and make them sick in the long run or cause them to die. When handling fish, again, we want to wet our hands or use a rag. You also saw earlier in some of the pictures, this would be more for our larger catfish or in salt water, but if you're able to go by one of these plier holders, you pinch the fish's jaw like that, and that holds the fish sturdy. And then again, we want to support the midsection of the body of the fish with our offhand. I understand this is a pretty small fish, so it's not a good example, but just imagine if you were holding a 21-inch redfish or a 5 or 8 pound bass by the jaw like that, you could literally break the jaw. So again, when we properly hold the fish, we want to hold it with our other hand in the midsection to support the weight. When it comes to removal of the hooks, we have some depending on kind of what you're fishing for. You can use just regular needle nose pliers like these. They work pretty good. They also make some that have like this, but will have a hook on the end to kind of pull the hooks out. If you're fishing for stuff really small like panfish, they do make these little tweezers almost. You can buy these at Academy or other fishing stores, and you can pull the hook out like those pretty easy. If you're fishing for maybe in the saltwater division or maybe for big catfish, I would recommend you go invest in one of these nice pliers that are made to pull out hooks like this one here. They're also, the nicer ones will have protective coatings on them so they don't rust, especially if you're fishing in saltwater. So I know it's going to be a little hard to tell, but lastly, I want to demonstrate real quick how to pull a hook out of a fish. So I know it's probably you really can't see in this picture too well, but there is a little hook in this fish here. So we just want to go with our pliers in there. We want to get a good grip on it, and we want to pull it out the same way it came in. We don't want to force it out the other way, but straight out the way it came in. We if there is a hook embedded deep down in the throat of the fish, there is a video where you can watch in the rule of play where you actually go through the gills like there to pull out the hook, but that would not be recommended if you can go through the mouth. So I think that's all I have on handling fish. Just want to remind y'all again real quick, especially with our large bass, we see this a lot. Don't hold them like this. You're going to break the jaw of the fish. Support the fish with your hand in the midsection. So I'm going to go back to my computer, and I think we'll have time for some questions. All right, let me go back to sharing my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. All right, so lastly, we got questions and answers. If y'all have any, feel free to ask them now. We do thank y'all for your time, and please, we ask that you take this survey so we can see how we did and learn how we can help y'all improve your knowledge in the future so we can make this tournament better for you. So there's a QR code and a link there. I don't know if Jheri-Lynn wants to chime in. I don't know when those are due by, but I would recommend y'all do them pretty quick so you can get credit for it.
Yes, so those will be due before our third educational program on April the 17th. So make sure you get those in before then. I will be sending this program out tomorrow to everyone who is registered. So if you don't have time to do your survey right now, you will get.
Trying to talk, Jheri-Lynn, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? So you have till August.
Yes, I can hear you.
Not August, April 17th, not August, April 17th to get your survey in before we have our third program. I will send this program out tomorrow to every one of you that have registered. So you'll have this QR code and this link to take the survey if you don't have time to do it right now. It's very short. There's just 7 quick questions to answer.
All right. I guess that's it. If y'all don't have anything, thank y'all for joining tonight, and I'll leave this up for y'all to scan the QR code.